Andy. Welcome to Marco Polo. I like to do the prep work, well, and actually a lot of my work right here on Marco Polo because sometimes when people do the intake, they plan for about an hour, they cover all the questions. I'm going to ask a number of questions. You're going to have some questions about the way I do this, what to expect, some of those details. And I'll answer them. And if we were one-on-one in live, other thing, it might take you a minute to process it. You would leave the meeting feeling good and then, think about things. And an hour later, you're going to have more questions. Well, I like Marco because it allows us to go back and forth, and it's specifically how it was named. It's the way we'll do things. Okay, first of all, I want you to know I've been guiding for years. Not forever. I've had my first experience in 2017, and I started guiding in 2019. And at first, it was, of course, just people in my household, people that I love, people that I know well. And I was really trip sitting and learning how much I liked guiding and how much my kind of practical brain allowed me to be a good guide for a lot of people. And so I started doing it more and more. But I've been doing it for years. I prefer one-on-one meetings or one-on-one ceremonies, worship services. But I do make some exceptions. I don't do romantic couples, but I will do other related couples, good friends. I guess that's not technically, but you know what I mean. When I do deal with romantic partners, I do them one-on-one. I'll work with both, but I won't let them sit together because one generally becomes a caretaker for the other and uses that caretaking as a distraction. I've seen that happen too much. And so it really just becomes a good ceremony for one of the people and not the other. So if I do them separately, then they can both have a good ceremony. There you go. Now you know. My job in this experience is to produce good sacrament for you or to help you grow your own. And I'm okay either way. And then I will help prepare it in a beautiful way so that you can choose to take it as part of your worship. I'm also, another job is to help keep you safe. I'm going to keep you warm, keep you whole, and I'm going to offer the sacrament, and then I'm going to get out of the way. I like to start with a hero's dose, which is 5 grams, and then we can, if you're not dropping in, you're resistant, for whatever reason, we can dose up. And so 5 grams is a hero's dose, 10 grams is a heroine's dose, and I've definitely worked with people where we've had to go even higher than that. So you will determine what dose you want. We'll talk about it. That's part of what we're going to, you're like, I don't know. Well, I'm going to give you some options so that you can kind of decide what feels right to you. I'm not super woo, but there are some things in this experience that are a bit unexplainable. So in some cases, I make my best guess at why something works a certain way, but I fully acknowledge I am making it up. I'm coming up with a theory of why I think it works this way. And in other cases, I can't even give you a theory. It's beyond my understanding. But I'll always be as clear as I can with you. I'll say, I don't know why this works, but this is happening. My theory is we have grown up and evolved alongside mushrooms. And as humans, there's records of us involving ourselves and participating with mushrooms for millennia. So is there some kind of connection? Is there some kind of evolutionary connection that connects us, right? In the same way a lot of our food that we eat, we've evolved along with, and our bodies, eat some things and some things are poison, right? So there's something about mushrooms and humans that make a beautiful match. And so what we want to tap into that. It feels a little bit unexplainable, but I've seen it just happen in beautiful ways. So if you want to grow your own and have that connection to these mushrooms that you're going to consume, I want to help you do that. So we can talk about that. So I will watch to hear from a message from you, a response, and then you can, but take your time and send it in a time that feels comfortable and timely manner. All right. Thanks, Amy. Bye.
Okay. I think the hardest part about this is going to be the camera part of the Marco Polo. Mostly because I don't like seeing myself. And so it'll probably take me a bit to get a little bit more comfortable with it, but or less comfortable about it. I think that it's going to be hard for me to be looking at the camera a lot, and I realized I just need to be okay with that. But got off the phone with you, and I was sitting down. I'm in the aforementioned bus right now, and I was kind of spitting out about things I don't have control over. Feeling down. I was drinking really, really sad plastic bottle glass of wine. We've kind of talked a little bit about like my issues with being perceived. And I was just sitting on the couch on the verge of tears and frustration and ruminating. And I was like, oh, I should just go do it right now. Like if I just force myself to do this while I'm not well, then I won't let that hang up of, not emotionally well, or I don't know. If I can just bully myself into doing it right now, the second while it's on my head, then that'll kind of get the discomforts and anxieties I had out of the way. So here we are, and it's almost, but I think it's good, kind of just like pushing myself through this moment and just breaking the seal a little bit, instead of waiting for that time where I'm feeling physically the best or emotionally the best, because I think that if I was feeling the best in any of those ways, that we wouldn't be doing this, right? So it was really silly for me to think that there would be a day that I was feeling ready to be perceived, when that's one of my issues, is that it's become kind of a crippling crutch in my life. So may as well fucking dive into it. So I listening to your message. I took down just like a couple of notes, and I don't know like if these need to be brought up right now or not. And maybe I'll just wait. Like it's been nice listening to you. One of the things that I really like in this exchange, versus being in person for this intake and doing it, is that I'm so much so I'm an auditory processor for my own emotions and feelings, and this lets me kind of get that part out without feeling like I need to speak to someone and meter or react based off of what that hypervigilance of what they're thinking, or like that scrutiny, that anxiety of being scrutinized, or even having input. I think that's one of the things that I just sometimes do stream of consciousness with thinking out loud, and this really lets me do that a little bit, and so I'm excited about that aspect of it. I think that I'm good at puzzles internally. Like I think that like if there's a problem, I can come up with those solutions internally, but being able to like step myself out of me and do that with my own emotions and like interpersonal dynamics is a lot harder. It's really just being able to separate and look at situations, especially when I'm supposed to be in them and being reactive, is not a strong suit of mine. God, I hate this. It's just what I'm doing. As long as I don't make eye contact with the camera, I'm going to be okay. So thank you for that. I took down a couple notes. I think it's awesome. Like knowing about the long-term platonic relationships and like you sitting with those. I think that was really curious for me to hear. Not necessarily that it had anyone come to mind that I would want to do that with in the future, but I do think that there's a lot of situations that I feel disconnected from or want to understand better, and just like knowing that if one of my chosen family wants to do something like that with me, or even biological family, that it's an option potentially, or that's worth exploring is cool. Super cool to have. Um, I had a couple questions just as far as the lead up and post. I have less questions, I think, about the ceremony itself or the guide. I don't know if I like the word ceremony, and I don't know if there's a better word for it, but for while you're guiding me, less about that experience itself, but more about leading up. And then immediately after, I just kind of wanted an idea of if the day after is something that I should kind of plan on being checked out and making sure that I have that post day free. And then another is more specific to you and I's dynamic, where I wanted to know how you felt about us potentially um the 2 days before or whatnot. I don't know if like it's something that you feel, because we engage so daily and so regularly, if it's something that we should like be like, okay, 2 days before we're not going to interact, or if that's not really going to have much of an input. I don't feel terribly anxious about it either way, but it was something that I was just like, oh, maybe that's something we should talk about, similarly into kind of us compartmentalizing this away until till my experience is over, if that's something we should talk about. um I don't know. I think I was kind of expecting to have a lot more questions that you needed from me. So that's nice that I didn't have to sit down and like do this full on emotional inventory to get started off of this one. So I appreciate that a lot. Okay, I'm never gonna end these well. I think I'm just gonna hang up now.
Andy, thank you for your video. It was perfect. And good questions. Good. Let me see if I can answer them, and then I'll have a few other things. And yeah, I want this to be as comfortable as it can be for you, even this portion of it. To start off, I want to make it clear this prep that we're doing, that's going to be about 5% of the experience. And then the actual day of the journey, that's 5% of the experience. And if we do this right, all the integration, all the work we do after is going to be 90% of the experience. So the prep is important because it helps you relax. It helps you get into a good mindset. It helps you understand what to expect, so you're not, super anxious or living in fear. So we'll do that, and that will go as long as it needs to. The day of is a really beautiful day. It's, even when it's hard, it's actually, people just report having a really lovely experience, and that is my job. That's what I provide, is a way to keep you, even if it's hard, a way to keep you in a space that is where the experience is framed from a lovely perspective rather than a scary perspective. And that is a big part of what I do. As far as compartmentalizing, yes, we work together. I can compartmentalize. I don't need the shift. If you do, if you need to have a little distance as we lead up to it, that's perfectly fine with you or with me, and I can make that happen, but I don't need it at all. So you get to decide that. The other thing, okay, the things to plan on, and let me give you more specifics about the actual day of. I like to do a day session. I'm an early riser. I think a lot of people, they'll have like a hangover from from an experience like this, and it's because they start at 9 o'clock at night and go through the night. Now, someone like you, night owl, maybe you love that. So if we need to adjust a little bit, we can. I like a day session. I think those are often really powerful. The event lasts between 5 and 7 hours. So when I start, I start as early as 7 or 8 a.m. That's not going to be you. You if you want to make it 11 or noon, that's still fine. That'll get us to 7 p.m. At the late, roughly, and then we will go from there. So let's just know that that's the kind of experience to plan for. We are going to do it, if you're comfortable with this, in somebody else's home. I am going to ask you more specifics about how some of these substances you've used impact you. Things like when I go to the dentist, he has to give me 5 times the amount of painkillers and numbing elements that he gives other people. I'm super resistant. So is that you? Are you that way? And if so, when you're doing cannabis, when you're doing alcohol, how do those things impact you? Or is one drink enough? So I want to know that. I like to start with a mask, an eye mask, and music. If you don't have an eye mask, I have one. And then your own music. As I'm saying, anything, whether it's about music, whether about eye mask, whether about anything, day or night. Part of what I want you to kind of be aware of is what sounds right to you. I don't want to do that. No, if you have a reaction like that, or when I say something, you're going to kind of know, oh, that's what I want. That's what you tell me, right? Be communicative about those things so that I can help you have a good experience. And your body knows, your mind knows. And so communicate those things. Remember, there's not a right or wrong way to do this. I'm going to give you lots of options, and you're going to help determine what are the best options for you. As long as we're being safe, there is not a wrong way to do this. Plan on making this as much as you can a 3 to 4 day experience. The first day, there's not a ton of prep that needs to happen, but what I do want is that the day before, for you not to have big important meetings and big negotiations with your partner. Any crazy phone calls from a toxic family member. You want to try and just have some of those things done so you avoid those calls, you avoid anything that might be extremely overwhelming the day before, because that gets you out of the right headspace. Let's see. Oh, then the day of the event, we'll have you eat a small meal the day of, and we'll talk more about that as we get closer. But then in that evening, you don't want plans. You're going to treat this like a pretty intense emotional experience, whether that's therapy or, grieving, or even a extremely happy experience. Those can all be exhausting. So you'll be feeling a lot of emotions. So you want to have, you want that evening to be pampered. If your partner's at home and can make sure food's coming in and, takes care of you, you watch some, junk TV or have some good conversations. Some people just want to chat. They want to be open to that. Other people want to journal. I had one client and she went home to her 2 dogs and she had really good conversations with those dogs. And of course, afterwards, she says, I know that was on my mind. I was just using the dog as the metaphor, but that was very cute. She was having some really insightful conversations. So, and partly that's probably because she's an audio processor. So she needed to talk to somebody or something, in order to continue with those insights. And then she was noting those down the whole time. So you need to figure out what that evening looks like, but don't make plans. Don't go out, have a quiet night at home. Some people go home and crash. They just are ready for sleep right away. So that may be you too. Another reason not to have a lot on your list. And then the next day, try and have that pretty open, pretty blank. Again, if your partner's around and that feels comfortable, spend some time together in a way that might feel a little bit new. Go to the park, go on some walks, do some things where you're talking with each other, so that you can continue to process through these ideas and insights that you have. And then know that for the next couple of days, the substance is in your body and you can still continue with those insights. They're really lovely and important those next few days. And for the next 3 weeks, daily kind of check in with yourself and see if there are more notes to take, more things to consider from that experience. Try to come ready with an intention. What is the reason you want to do this? And it can be kind of vague, it can be kind of general, or it can be very specific. And also note, we get the journey we need, not the journey we want. So you can have some intentions in place, and I've seen other people, they have very specific intentions ready for the experience, but then they realize in the experience they're having to clear out other things first. And that intention, yes, it's something they need to think about and work on, but it actually isn't something that they get to really focus on for a little while, months sometimes, because they have to clean up other things first. So think about that. What is your intention? Remember, your mind and your body will take you where you need to go. Okay, the final thing is for today, some people like to have a token, a rock, a photo, a coin, something that's kind of a token that is grounding, that they can kind of hold on to if needed. And I have lots of people who bring them who end up not even using them at all. Fine. They can be something that's a long-term thing for you, or something that just, nope, this is for this experience, and I'm bringing it, and you have your reason. So think about that. Does that feel right? And do you want to bring that? Okay. That was a lot. Let me know if you have questions for me, and then we will go from there, and we'll let me know what else you need, and we'll do that. Thank you so much. Bye, Andy. One other thing, I'm not a big proponent of telling you what to eat, what to drink, how to do those things. Some people prep you by saying, stop having sex, don't work out, or have a big workout, or I don't. Live your life. Live your life. If you think something's going to maybe impact this experience, don't do it. Or you think it's going to impact negatively, don't do it. If it's positive, then for sure. You know what is right for your body and who you are. But I don't want you to show up with alcohol in your system. So what does that look like? If you can do fewer, and if you need to drink the night before, that doesn't count. But if I don't want you to get super drunk the night before. So just come to that with a little moderation as you prep for this, so that there are no, so that doesn't dull your experience. All right. Bye.
Hey, Sarah. This is perfect timing. I got your polos. I was getting ready to leave, and I've got this awesome little stand here that I could use. Thank you. I know that I was supposed to get this back to you yesterday, but I decided to stay in bed, and it was lovely. I had a couple of questions. One of the things that excited me, the intention. I think that might be something that I'd like one more video or exchange back and forth on that. I really liked your warning of you can set the intention and explore it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's what I'll wind up sitting in with. But I realized that I was just going in a lot of different directions with it, and maybe that's okay. But yeah, if we could talk about that a little bit more, or if that's something that we'll talk about before the meeting. I've heard people talking about intentions. before, and I don't know. It just made me kind of laugh at like I feel like I live my life very intentionally, and then being asked to make an intention of being like I don't know if I've got one. That seems intimidating. Yeah, as far as my integration afterwards, some of the things that I've been doing, you know that I've got my friend who was sexually assaulted a couple of weeks ago. One of the things I've been doing is really reaching out to mine and hers both support network and letting them know that I am having this thing happen. I'm doing this ceremony, and that I really need some help in making sure some of my anxieties and things I was trying to get done for her are offloaded, which has been really good. I've just kind of been like, hey, she's going back to work at the beginning of August. And I didn't want to go into this thinking that right afterwards I needed to spend a lot of energy making sure she was taken care for and set up for success before she heads back to work. So that's been good. And so like with integrations, for me, it'll be a lot of journaling, and a lot of working with Brian. And I've got a couple of people that I've just let know that I'm going to be doing this, but not everyone. I think I'm really curious to see, like, I do think that my relationship dynamics, is going to be a big thing for me, or at least it feels big. So maybe that's as much of the intention that really needs to be dove into, is just kind of being receptive to what I'm consciously and not consciously telling myself or doing around those things. You had kind of asked me what my tolerance levels were with other substances. And so for me, like with Molly, for instance, I'm like a very, very low dose person on that. I don't want a very like impactful experience with like Molly. But with other psychedelics like LSD and DMT, I find that I have a really high tolerance for that. I'm normally taking two to four hits of acid when I start out with that. DMT, I had one DMT experience several years ago, and she could not get me to blast off, I think is the terminology of it. And I was just talking the whole time. I mean, my eyes, we did it similarly, eyes closed. We were in the bed. Some music was playing. She was doing great. And afterwards she was like, I've never had anyone just sit and talk the way you were. Like, she was like, I hope it was good. And it was a great experience for me. But I don't think she was expecting me to have such a high resistance to just settling in and having that internal. And I think when we've talked about when you explained kind of what other people's experiences are, like I'm excited for like face masks. That's great. That's how we sleep every night. But then I started like preemptively feeling embarrassed that I was just going to be motor mouthing the entire time. So if that's not normal, I would say even a higher dosage than maybe you were planning on. I think you were saying 5 or 10 grams. I feel comfortable. I feel comfortable going with a fairly heavy dosage, I think is what I'm trying to say. Excited about it. Yeah, that's it. That's all I got now. I will see you in a little bit.
Okay, one of the last things I want to talk about is the concept of facing something difficult in a journey. If I come to you and kind of tap you on the shoulder and you give me a thumbs up, I'm going to leave you alone. If you want to talk, or you're extremely emotional about something, I may stop and say, hey, are you okay? Do you like where you are? Do you like where your thoughts are? Do we need to change the channel? And that just means we don't have to stay in whatever space you're in. Most people, when I ask them that, want to stay. Some, they're just not ready for whatever this is, and we move on to something else. Some of the people who move on end up going back, say, nope, I need to go face that. And some don't. They just say, nope, now is truly not the time. So again, as you've heard me say multiple times, there's not a right or wrong. But you're going to see how it feels to you, and we're going to respond to that. So, I'm excited. I'm going to see you tomorrow. We're starting at 10 o'clock. we'll probably have you take the medicine, take the sacrament within 30 minutes of you arriving. There's no reason to wait. Remember to wear comfortable clothing, things you can move around in. Um, Bring a water bottle. We've talked about eye mask and something to play music on. Okay, Andy, how was your night? I want to report on your afternoon and your evening. I sent you away still pretty, oh, you're still heavily in the medicine. It just felt good to send you with Brian, um, with the state you were in. So I want to know how things went last night, how you've been feeling. Um, so I'd love a report.
It took me a second longer than I expected it to start this video up, and part of it was just there's so many veins of like conversation or thoughts that I've had, that still kind of getting my footing on all of it. But just starting with yesterday, once we got home, it was great. It was great to be home, be in the bed, have Brian. I think that was like a good call. Not that I was ever feeling like unsafe or disrupted in any way, other than just like feeling like the anxiety and awareness of like, okay, what time is it? What are my next steps? What do I need to do and get taken care of for what was going, like what today looks like? Because originally having to do the lake day today, and then this morning deciding, or between last night and this morning just being like it's probably better to take that off my plate, um was good, like a good call. But yeah, like Brian came, grabbed me. When we got home, he wound up taking some MDMA so that he could kind of, like we had talked about, like be somewhat on the same level, and that was good. We had some awesome talks. I was expecting myself, was so tired, wiped, and was expecting myself to want to pass out, but the leg pains especially that I was having going on, and I wasn't able to, because it took me a while. I got some pain meds in me, but it was really good. Like it was awesome to try to, like, I found that my brain pretty quickly started after I did more verbal dumping with him, and like kind of tried sharing and holding on to some of the things while I could that we had talked about, and just like the experience. I found myself asking like how to do things better. Like I was just like, okay, like how do I do mushrooms better next time? Because there was like, it did take definitely a different direction than I was expecting, or like thought that it might be. I was really looking forward to having more of the laying down eye mask based experience, and so for me to have been pulled out of that by myself and by my body was not something I had expected was going to happen. But I think it was really good, because I do think that's one of the biggest things that in a lot of different ways show me like the some magnifications on what I'm not doing for myself, not just health wise, but also with like mental time and space and those caretaking things. Like seeing that kind of manifest was jarring but very necessary. I don't know. I still feel really fumbly and a little bit jumbly around my thoughts on the experience as a whole. I think it's been interesting to oscillate between the like, oh, I need to do it better, and then also being like, oh wow, like I need to do me better. Like looking at what it is that I'm kind of failing myself in some areas has been kind of some of those ruminations. Which been super early last night, which was awesome. It was like 9ish, which meant that I got, my full 10 hours. I actually also woke up pretty early this morning. I initially woke up at 8, around 8ish, and then tried to, like, I almost got up, but just not knowing how today's postmortem meeting was going to go. I wanted to give my brain just a little bit more downtime, but that was cool to experience just naturally waking up early and, not feeling as beat up. I thought I was going to feel a lot more physically beat up today with how loud my body got yesterday. I thought today was going to be a pretty sore, rough day for me, but I'm feeling pretty all right. Like as far as that goes, like, about like better than usual in some ways. As far as, I don't know if there's just a different thing to focus on and like being in like just that different reflective space or not. But yeah, I don't know. I'm interested to read the notes. I'm interested to see any notes that you want to check and having some feedback because it's been harder for me to sit and like explore through thought. So yeah, I'm still kind of like unraveling it all a little bit. I don't know if I have any like concrete reflections on it as a whole. I'm like just yet. So it's kind of still in that like locking things in a bit and feeling a little intimidated. But I also think that it was really necessary. I think all of it was really like did achieve its goal and that I wanted and needed a kickstart, a jolt to my system, my emotional self, just to kind of see what things were really sitting under my surface or what I was ignoring. And I think that that's exactly what I wanted and exactly what I got it. And so I'm overall feeling good about the experience. Like there's the couple of levels of just like looking at where I was before, just even the day before, and feeling very just apathetic and lost and directionless and like cavalier, just like nothing really felt important to me. And then today, like being like, okay, like there's stuff I need to work on and start taking more seriously for myself. And that's really what I was wanting out of it, like needing to find what it is, to find something to make me care again. And so it's hard to tell if it was any of the specific things that came up during it or if it was just the overall experience of like even needing the jump start and getting it. Like those are the things that I'm kind of still working through. It's just like what about it was so specific that I can feel that that's what happened. If it's motivations or because of embarrassment and feeling that like this mess inside of me um that's been confusing and swirling around, like so manifested in such like a loud and rough way. But it doesn't feel like it was rough or traumatizing or like damaging in any ways. I was just like, oh yeah, it's just kind of like seeing it just present the inside on the outside and being like, oh, I'd like both of those things to be calmer and different and like a little bit more grounded. And so I'm excited to over the next couple of months of like doing this integration, digging into some things. Like I don't know if it's a terrible idea or like if it's crazy to be even saying it this soon or shortly, but I'm like, yeah, like I'm eager for the next time I do it. And I can't say that would I don't know if I would do as high of a dose or not, but like as of right now, I'm not like feeling like that the dosage was a deterrent. Part of me feels like, oh, there's a lot of that was going to happen regardless of the dosing size. Um, but being that I've just never taken a larger doses is like, okay, this is akin to two experiences I've had like on acid where it was just, you know, like two hits of acid if I've had a bad moment or a bad week or like a bad moment in acid, like that's about what it's looked like. It was more just prolonged. So that was yeah, that was really interesting for me. Um yeah, and I guess I feel a little like curious on like next steps or how to start tackling these things. I know I'm excited for the therapist referral that we had talked about. I think that that's going to be really good. That's one of the things that Brian and I talked about was that, you know, it's been a journey for me trying to figure out my mental health stuff and like finding therapy that works for me or doing that and getting serious about it. It's been about 2 or 3 years that I've like brought it up or kind of started poking into that a little bit, and that's one of the loudest things for me was that it just that needs to be like a pretty high priority in addition to the physical health stuff. So I don't know if yeah, I think just looking forward to like kind of some advice and guidance on like how what to do with this experience moving forward. Thank you for it all. You guys were incredible. Like I really couldn't have been more like as far as doing psychedelics in a space where I felt like I could be that raw and vulnerable and ugly. Like that was exactly what I was hoping for, you know, just like not having to feel like a burden to a partner or a friend. And just being able to kind of like implode a little bit and know that that was kind of we talked about like that consensual exchange of trauma dumping or what it is. So I'm so grateful. Like I'm so grateful for you guys, and Angie was like everything was exactly as I needed it to be walking in and feeling good and safe about it all. So, yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Hi, Andy. Um, I've been trying to give you a little space. I know we saw each other Sunday, but I still wanted to give you a little space to kind of work through some of these things yourself. But I'm happy to meet up. I'm happy to really kind of download some of this with you. Uh, and let's just see where you are. And, you know, what we don't want to do is nothing. Because what can happen is we have a big experience, and at about the 3 week mark, if no changes are being implemented, if life is exactly the same, it can send people into a depression, and we want to avoid that. So we want to start looking at your list of things and things that the downloads you've been getting since, you know, I stopped taking notes. Um, and then let's kind of, if we need to whiteboard them, let's do it. But let's kind of list them out, prioritize them. And then the top two, one or two, what are some very specific things you can do to implement those things into your life or to make a change to your life regarding those things. And then after that, you know, after a couple weeks and that feels like they're in your life and you're going to be able to keep going forward, then we introduce another one. And then, you know, a week or two later, we introduce one or two more. So let's think about what that is. I hope I put at the top of your list moving your body. So I would love to see. Oh, and I would love to help with that. Get yourself out there. Just using this awesome body that you have. So, I hope as you're doing the other work, you're doing some of that. Oh, but that's it. That's what I got. I hope you're good. Let's talk very soon. I am now done with all of my experiences with people this week, so I am happy to talk. As I said, I'm happy to meet up, whatever you want. Bye.
Morning, Sara. Um, bleh. So last night I started hitting. Sorry. One of the things I've been struggling with the last couple of days, and it started getting a little bit concerning, to the point where like I was like Googling it, was just like my emptiness, my inability to hold thoughts, my inability to think, um, and then yesterday at some point I started being able to kind of do more examining and processing of some things. And then I don't know, I kind of realized that like my brain just so desperately needed to be emptied, like to not hold thoughts, to not be in like a stress mode. I've been pretty diligent about just not responding and talking to people, which has been good. Yesterday I did meet up with Justin for a couple hours, which was nice. It was a very overstimulating, but thankfully it was short, and it was good to kind of just be supports for one another in a social setting. So I don't think neither he nor I would have been capable of being a whole person without somebody who knew exactly what the state of minds we were in was at, and kind of being able to tag team that, like, the social anxieties and balancing that out a bit. So that was good. And then um yeah, last night I started having more connected thoughts and more like a slow activation. It feels like we're starting to see some direction. I'm still like really committed to not making locked in hard and fast plans with people, but I do feel like I'm starting to like recognize that I can't just live in the like isolation bubble forever, and also doing that, being alone so much and then having Brian come home and then being a body around me 24/7 would be, I think, like equally as jarring, um or just disruptive in some way. But then this morning I woke up, so I was feeling good last night, journaled a little bit about it, just started having a little bit of like a breakdown because I was just like, oh my gosh, I've just abandoned like everyone in my life. I went from being this hyper involved caretaker, taking, like knowing what's going on with my mom, with Kim, with anyone, and then just really, really aggressively just dropped off the face of the planet with kind of my daily interaction people. And so I had a good cry, started to be a little bit of a spin out about it, of just, like there are, just blaming, creating stories, creating that narrative of that, like see, look, this is the proof. If I do anything for myself in any real intense way, then there's consequences that happen. And was trying to talk myself out of that, trying to recognize that. Not some Kim called, and her and I had a good cry on the phone, and I brought that up with her where I was just like, if I played a role in this, I'm so sorry. And she was real sweet and just being like, hey, like you're struggling and need to do what you need to do for your mental health. And I knew that, and I also am struggling and need to do what I need to do for mine. And so it was good to I feel like I was letting myself trust that. It was a much quicker, I think I normally hold on to those feelings of guilt or shame. Like if I feel like I failed someone, that tends to really linger. And then also like it lingers, and then it also motivates um and exasperates like other behaviors, and like trying to make up for the failure by um being there more intensely and better and harder and whatnot. But it was nice, and a very noticeable difference in reaction from myself, and me saying like, here's this my anxiety, and this is what I'm worried about, and is this something you like, is this true, have I failed you, is this a result of me over this last week kind of checking out so that I could do this, and then her, like me being able to believe her when she said that it wasn't, and that if everything was going to be okay, and she's safe and fine and just doing her thing because she's doing it because she knows she's not getting better, even with all the support that she's getting from friends, and looking towards more like professional help beyond what she's even got with her therapist. And so um it was nice to see how quickly that anxiety escalated, and the spin out and the rumination started happening, and then how quickly I was able to de-escalate it versus having it turn into a depressive bout for the day. Because I think that normally would have been how I deal with things, like the second I think that I've failed someone, it tends to turn into a very internal big crisis for myself. So it was nice. So yeah, I'm each day I'm feeling a little bit more aware, like a little less floaty. It's still there. It's been a little bit frustrating with the internal conversations I'm having. The like thoughts that I'm having internally are so great and the words are all there, but it does feel like the second I try talking, putting those to life outside of myself, it's so hard. It's been incredible how difficult that has been. And like that's one of the things that I wound up like Googling. I was like, man, did I give myself the stupids? Did I fry my brain? But from what I was reading, it seems like this is kind of a familiar experience. Like I'm not gonna try to come up with like percentages, but that it's not unfamiliar and that it is going to be lightning and getting easier. So I'm that's really reaffirmed my decision to kind of isolate a little bit because I think that that would be really hard to have this level of airheadedness that I feel like I've got going on because it's verging on the edge of dissociation. And it's like I'm fighting to find the words before I say them. I don't know. Like it's so then I start dissociating as I'm talking. But not because I'm uncomfortable, just because I'm struggling to find things. So it's good to kind of see that that is not an unfamiliar thing. Glad that I'm not having to be a real human being. I feel sorry for anyone who has to do real human being stuff and the following days after an experience. But yeah, so that's kind of just like a check-in of where things are at. So I'll be going and taking some clothes to Kim during her visiting hours. It seems like that's really just all that's really being asked or needed of me is that she's wanting me to know that she was okay. And I feel like I do this a lot where if I feel like someone can't relate to the experience I'm having, I get too self-conscious to share and open up about it. And so you and Steve stopping by yesterday and talking to Justin has been really good because I've not stopped feeling like other or that I'm living a separate or different experience that's just so unrelatable to some of my other friends. So it's been really nice to have you three as supports in this way, in a good metered way where I'm able to do what I need and not be fussed over, and also getting the check-ins and being given and offered the opportunities to process has been really nice. Brian is heading to Chicago today. I don't know if he's back tomorrow or Sunday, but I think that yeah, the next 2 days is going to be me kind of preparing to share a space with someone. That's been one of the things that have been really, really loud to me is that my need for alone time and isolation is so significant and something that I've robbed myself of for the last 5 years in the relationship that I've stepped into, how intensely we spend our time together. That was a big thing with getting the shop as just me having like a workspace. So I want to get back in the habit of getting back over there more in a more disciplined way um and then kind of writing. I think these are kind of the things. It was such a big plate of what do I do and when do I do it and how do I tackle this beast. And I think in my mind I thought I needed to just go all in at once, that there was going to be this like mental health boot camp that I was going to be going through. And I think that that's how I approach so many things. And so it's been nice between yesterday and today being like, well, there's a lot of small things that I'm going to be putting in place that will gradually have the outcomes. It's not just like a set it and forget it sun rejuvenation. It's like you're saying, like, okay, starting with the bike, starting with some fruit prep, like just really getting these things that I've known but haven't given myself time to really start implementing a chance to do stuff. So it feels less I feel less defeated by my own mind right now than I think I did a couple days ago. Um so yeah, there's that. I don't know if and I was going to actually right now after this, I'm going to kind of do a pre notes, post notes. I know that there's not very many, but I was gonna sit down and go over my notes finally and look at doing some journaling, even just copying down the notes that you have into my journal as something to easy reference when I want to, and see if there's much that needs to be explored there. But I think this first part, I just needed to sit in and what my surface level feelings about the experience were, and then now kind of starting to see if there's things that need to be examined further, which doesn't feel intimidating to me like as it did the last couple of days. So yeah, so that's my update for today or for now, and I'm sure I'll send another video after I've got the notes reviewed. So thank you so much. Bye bye. Hey Sarah, I just wanted to give a little bit of an update. I feel like my brain's starting to come back on, and I was kind of looking back and reflecting on the last couple of days. And I don't know if I started getting excited. And my brain working again. One of the things I was just thinking about was, or one of the things that I've noticed was that my physical body, I'm still so tired, and that's a whole different battle in itself. But one of the things that I've realized is that I've become like my ability to be like having willpower is present, even with my like physical exhaustion and fatigue that I just I'll be tackling. But I find myself cycling through tasks a lot more, rather than just being like, oh, I'm exhausted and I don't have the energy to do anything. I'm finding that I'm getting more restless in than going through my phone or watching TV. Like I've noticed today, especially in my down hours, like my unoccupied hours, that I do kind of this fussing around. And at first I was like, oh, I don't know, like when my brain was empty, it was restlessness was all that I could really describe it as. But then in the last hour or so, I've realized I'm like, oh, I'm just giving myself, it sounds so stupid to say. It's like, oh, I'm just giving myself breaks, and I'm just stopping doing things when they're no longer what I would be doing in the moment. But instead of being like, oh, I'm organizing my cupboard and I don't want to do it anymore, that must mean that I don't want to do anything anymore. It's easy for me to be like, okay, I'm going to go sit down and like using my downtime to just recover, not get sucked into things. And it was really cool just kind of thinking about that as I've been fussing around. I was like, oh, like this is kind of where I'm starting to see the differences between my, depression or the whatever it was that I needed to find a reset for, and that wanted me to do the mushroom journey, and my ADHD. Like if you were neurodivergent, you've got ADHD and autism and PTSD and all those things. It's real easy to just convince yourself that every part and moment of your existence is just wrapped up in those things. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm bouncing around between things, but I think that's probably just my ADHD, but also like having that willpower. I don't know. It's been really exciting. It's been exciting for me to just kind of see that. And yesterday I opened up my notes and started going through them, and I've been copying them down into my journal, and that was great, and it was cool to kind of look at those things. But today I think has been like the most impactful and positive, where I've got these skills that I've applied externally so intensely the last couple of years, that just today using those skills for my own house and home and systems has been cool. And just being like, oh, it's not a matter of that I'm not capable of doing these things for myself. I just haven't given myself the time to be able to do them. So it was pretty exciting realizing that, yeah, there's all this gunk and stuff that may have come up. But right now I'm really feeling that like the biggest benefit has been the reset itself, of just being able to be like, oh man, that was hard and embarrassing and made me feel very raw and vulnerable for the emotional part during the journey. But then in today feeling less crazy for doing it. I think that was one of those things where I was like, man, I must be broken if I'm just like diving into this, not knowing what's going on, not preparing myself really. And then being like, oh, my brain just so desperately needed this reboot. I just needed to be empty and dumb and not find my words, because I had too much clogging up the gears. Um And during the journey, I remember as I was coming out from my peak experience, I've been asking about the time. And you had told me, you're like, yeah, normally when people ask the time, that tells me that they're ready to transition home, or however we phrased it. And I feel like that's what today has been for me, where I've started prepping for what my next week looks like. Where last week, if you had asked me to try to make a list of the things that I need to do next week, I wouldn't have even tried. I just really wouldn't have. And so um and today me and Justin got together and went to Trader Joe's and Smith's and the DI, and then made some Lunchable with the vacuum sealer. And after that, I was certain I was going to be done and tired and over it. But I've just found that even though I'm exhausted and I'm like in my pajamas, I'm starting my bedtime routine, I'm feeling more capable to be like, okay, yes, I'm winding down for the day. I've got a couple of things to do, but I'm going over the lists of like, all right, but I've taken this week off and did this really intense thing. Now how do I start prepping for my default life, my everyday life, and what needs to get done, and getting back on stuff. And so that's been exciting because I really did. I don't know if I told you, like I was like Googling if I had broken my brain, because I just the inability to think and the inability to communicate audibly to anyone around me. By like, let's see, so we did our journey on Friday. So yeah, Wednesday, Thursday, I really was just, and I maybe I told you, I was just like, man, I must have broken my brain. Like, and I was like, I don't know if I'll ever, like, what if me doing this experience has told me that I just don't want to participate in any aspect of my life as it is right now. That'd really suck. That'd be a bummer to feel like I repivoted my whole life, and that was just kind of looming over me. And then yeah, today I've just felt more enthusiastic about being like, cool, this feels like even a bit of just a week out, like this was what I needed, and I can um feel it coming back. Went over to Matt and Laura's, and I like looking back on what that experience at their house last night for me was. um I could feel that I was less, I mean, not perfectly, but like I felt more in control over my emotional reactions to things. I've had a couple situations this week where I've been able to look back and see that I was having an emotional reaction or response to someone or something, and able to actively tell myself I don't need to act on saying the first thing that comes to mind or my emotions, like just like feeling a little bit more like I could guide them instead of them controlling me. I feel really floaty. Realizing that I haven't been on my Adderall truly for about a month was really interesting, because I think that's kind of, well, I can't refill, or I mean I missed getting it refilled today, but I am kind of eager to see what a couple more days without it looks like, because I'm in the spine line area where I'm like, either I am like my ADHD is just all over the map, or this is the mushrooms, and so I kind of want to just see what that's like, because it's just interesting. I don't know. So yeah, so that's what's been. There's, like I said, it's probably a very long update, but just a little bit of an update. Brian comes home tomorrow morning. Ideally he's spying on standby. And so I just continue taking it as easy as I can, or as my brain is letting me, but I'm starting to feel back on track. I'm just looping now. All right, cool. We'll talk to you later. Bye.